Hello everyone, it's Janki and welcome back to my channel. And today is a very fun video concept for me because I've been wanting to do a tier ranking video for so long, but I was awaiting an opportunity to do something different. Like, I've seen people tier ranking their favorite books or the books they have read throughout the year, but recently I saw Ariel Bassett's video wherein she ranks the first lines of the classics she has read. So I thought that is a very good idea, and I took up that idea from her and modified it a little. So today I'll be tier ranking my thriller books that I have read on the basis of its first line. So the only criteria for this tier ranking is the first line only. I have read all of these books that I'm ranking, but I'll not be swayed by my overall ranking of these books, and I'll just judge these books based on the first line and then rank them. So before starting this tier ranking, I'd like to show you the tiers I have made. So the first tier that I have is most intriguing, and for me the first line that has the scope of becoming a very good thriller or something that intrigues me and has a very promising start will go in the most intriguing. That is the top tier. Second comes solid beginning, which is not the very best of the beginnings, like the most intriguing, just a level down to it. Then the third tier is mediocre start, average, it just provides you information here and there, And the last tier is dull, the first line that is really very dull and dry, like I wouldn't want to continue the book thinking of that first line. I'm starting with all my physical books, the physical thrillers that I have, and then we'll jump off to some ebooks. So the first book that I have is the iconic A Study in Scarlet by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, and let us see what the first line says. In the year 1878, I took my degree of Doctor of Medicine of the University of London and proceeded to Netley to go through the course prescribed for surgeons in the army. So the first line, it's just providing us some information about the character, nothing too great. So I will probably put this in a mediocre start. The next book we have is One of Us is Next by Karen M. McManus, and let us see the first line. My sister thinks I'm a slacker. Where should I put this as well? My sister thinks I am a slacker. I'll put the first line of this book into the mediocre start as well. The next book we have is What Alice Knew by T.A. Cotterill. Let us see the first line. A portrait is a quest for the truth. It spares no one. Now, that was something different from the other two books that we have read, the first line of, and it sure has some intrigue in it, because the first line describes a portrait, and for me I think this is a solid beginning. The next book we have is one of my favorites, The Good Daughter by Karen Slaughter. Samantha Quinn felt the stinging of 1,000 hornets inside her legs as she ran down the long, forlorn driveway towards the farmhouse. This again is a very good first line. It tells us about a character who is struggling with something and is running from something, basically. And it has a level of intrigue. Like in thrillers, when some part of what's about to happen in the book is presented in the first page so that we get an idea of what we are about to get, a little idea of that. So yes, that was most intriguing. Next book we have is Dark Places by Gillian Flynn. I have a meanness inside me, real as an organ. Now that, if I had a tier wherein we had some sassiest or savage first lines, I would definitely put this line in that tier. It is iconic in some senses, and I remember when I first read this book, I even took a picture and posted on my Instagram because I liked that first line. So, I have a meanness inside me, real as an organ. It definitely tells us a lot about the character. Like she herself is telling this about her. So, if I had to judge this based on a thriller, because the tears that I've made are corresponding to thriller books, so I think this would be a solid beginning. The next book we have here is Truly Devious by Maureen Johnson. Let us see the first line. Fate came for Dottie Epstein a year earlier in the form of call to the principal's office. Where should I put this? Fate came for Dottie Epstein a year earlier when she was called to the principal's office. It's definitely not most intriguing. It wasn't dull. So the choice remains between solid beginning and mediocre start. And I think it's a solid beginning because we do get something of the setting of the book. Principal's office, school setting, sparks a little intrigue. So I think it is a solid beginning. The next book we have is Stillhouse Lake by Rachel Kane. Now I am confused whether to read the first line of the book as in the prologue, or should I read the first chapter? I think I should go with the prologue because technically that is the first sentence of the book. Gina never asked about the garage. So yes, based on that first line, Gina never asked what was in the garage. It definitely intrigues me that what was in garage. In the most intriguing or the solid beginning. Gina never asked what was in the garage. I think it's a start of something really, really thrilling, but I'm not sure if I'll put this in most intriguing. So I think this book will go into solid beginning. The next book we have is I Am Watching You by Teresa Driscoll. I made a mistake. I know that now. That again is one interesting line. I made a mistake. I know that now. Definitely seems like the first line of a thriller. So I made a mistake. I know that now. I'll put it in solid beginning. The next book we have is Recursion by Blake Crouch. Barry Sutton pulls over into the fire lane at the main entrance of the Poe building, an Art Deco tower glowing white in the illumination of its exterior sconces. I didn't like that line. This is the first line till now that I feel is dull. It's really dull. And I'm not even judging the first line by the whole experience I had while reading this book, which is also not great. So I'm not cheating, but yes, the line was dull. The next book we have here is The Treatment by C.L. Taylor. They Are Still Following Me. I know, most of the lines in thrillers, the first lines are short and crisp, just to make you want to read further. And I think this is the kind of that bait line. They're still following me. Who's following you? While reading a thriller, while picking up a thriller, we expect that when a person says they're still following me, it's something dark. We try to find out mystery in those lines, but really, they're still following me. I think this is more a kind of a clickbait that happens in YouTube videos. It's just a lure, I think. I'll not fall for it, and I think just because I think that line is just something very redundant, very commonly used just to make you read further, I'll put that line into mediocre start. Last physical book that we have here is one of my favorites, The House of Silk by Anthony Horowitz. Actually, no, this is not the last physical book. Completely forgot about another Anthony Horowitz book. So yes, this is the second last physical book. Influenza is unpleasant, Sherlock Holmes remarked, but you are right in thinking that with your wife's help, the child will recover soon. So, as you see, not a usual thriller first line, not a lure to read further, but the character name itself wants you to read further, which is Sherlock Holmes. Judging only the first line of this book, I'll put it into mediocre start. And now our last physical book is Magpie Murders by Anthony Horowitz, A Bottle of Wine. How do I even judge that first line? A bottle of wine. It's not even a line, it's a phrase. A bottle of wine. Should I continue reading that? Because it doesn't really seem like a sentence. I think I should read further. Bottle of wine, a family-sized packet of nacho cheese, flavored tortilla chips and a jar of hot salsa dip. A packet of cigarettes on the side, the rain hammering against the window, and a book. What could have been lovelier? That's like an ideal reading situation there. I just love that line just in general, like for reading a book, the ambience of that situation. But if I had to judge the first line of the thriller, would I? It's not dull. It's not most intriguing. It's definitely between solid beginning and mediocre start. Go for a solid beginning. Now that we have done with the physical thrillers, I'll go to some ebook thrillers that I've read. So the first book that we'll be seeing is All Your Twisted Secrets. So the first line is, I spent the last hour wondering if I would die tonight. It's written in first person and the person says, I spent the last hour wondering if I would die tonight. Now this could be casual if there are just normal circumstances and the person is just remarking on his bad day, or it could be a beginning of a thriller, which it is. Again, I feel this is your normal thriller first lines. I spent the last hour wondering if I would die tonight. All of your twisted secrets in solid beginning. So the second book we have is The Cuckoo's Calling by Robert Galbraith, and let us see what the first line says. The buzz in the street was like the humming of flies. The first line gives you the impression of a crowd on the street. And since it's a murder mystery, but I'm not judging the first line based on the book, so I can't make that explanation. For me, it's a mediocre start. Like, nothing great. Next book we have is Stalking Jack the Ripper by Kerry Maniscalco, and the first line of it reads, I placed my thumb and forefinger on the icy flesh, spreading it taut above the breastbone as Uncle had showed me. That's definitely some post-mortem happening. This line for me, I placed my thumb and forefinger on the icy flesh, spreading it taut above the breastbone as the uncle had showed me. This would want me to read further, but it's not the most intriguing of lines, so I'll put it in a solid beginning. The next book we have is The Guest List by Lucy Foley, and the first line of it reads, the lights go out. I think that is again your normal thriller start, the lights go out. Now it would be a birthday party as well, but we do not know that. The lights go out. That is a mediocre start. Again, I feel that I'm being lured into reading the book. Moving on to our next book, which is The Kind Worth Killing by Peter Swanson, and the first line of it is, "Hello there," she said. Really? I feel the first lines are very important. How could you begin with "Hello there," she said? I'm just reading for the sake of reading, but I'll not judge the first line based on that. But the next line says, "I looked at the pale freckled hand on the back of the empty bar seat next to me in the business class lounge at Heathrow Airport, then up to the stranger's face. Still, hello there," she said. Now that for me is it's a dull beginning. Okay, so the next book we have is One of Us is Lying by Karen M. McManus, and let us see what the first sentence has for us. It's not really a sentence, it's a phrase, but really the first sentence is a sex tape. Now this is something sensational. Like, we should read it further because it's just a phrase. A sex tape, a pregnancy scare, 2 cheating scandals, and that's just this week's update. I like this first line. I would absolutely want to continue reading this book. I'm not even thinking so much. I think I'll put it in most intriguing. So the next book we have is Pretty Girls by Karen Slaughter. Again, one of my favorites and a very messed up book. Don't pick it up if you can't handle it. Okay, so the first line reads, "When you first disappeared, your mother warned me that finding out exactly what had happened to you would be worse than never knowing." That is what I like in thrillers, that the first line, it just picked up on me, and I'm not lying when I'm saying I just experienced it. I had goosebumps on my arm right now. Like, not by reading the first sentence, but I just recalled my reading experience of this book, and just as I read this first line, I had the goosebumps. I'm not joking. But really, when you first disappeared, your mother warned me that finding out exactly what happened to you would be worse than never knowing. That really shows that something really, really terrible happened. And that's what we want to read in thrillers, isn't it? How insane are we? But really, that line for me is surely most intriguing. So, the next book we have is The Silent Patient by Alex Michaelides, and the first line is, "I don't know why I'm writing this." And I truly love that first line. I don't know why I'm writing this. I don't know what I'm doing in my life. Yes, I don't know why I'm writing this. I'll put it in, what should I put it in? I think it's a solid beginning. Personally, for me, it's a solid beginning. The next book we have is The Turn of the Key by Ruth Ware, and the first line is, "Mr. Wrexham, I know you don't know me, but please, 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 you have to help me." I know you don't know me, but please, you have to help me. That's, again, a very thrillery first line. The most intriguing or solid beginning, but you have to help me. Again, that the fact that it's so thrillery that it's like a cliche, I put it into, for that fact only, into solid beginning and not most intriguing. So our other book is The Women in the Window by A.J. Finn, and the first line is, her husband's almost home. Like, I know what the character is saying, in the sense that since I've read the book, I know what the situation is, but I only have to judge the first line. So, her husband's almost home. I don't find anything interesting in it. Her husband's almost home. It just tells us that someone is keeping track of something. That is the only inference I can draw from that first line. I'll put it into mediocre start. Now our last book for this tier ranking video is Sharp Objects by Gillian Flynn. Let us see what the first line is. My sweater was new, stinging red and ugly. Normal beginning of a book. If we really overanalyze this line, it speaks nothing. Like, it tells you nothing about the character, the situation, nothing. And that for me is dull. So with this, we completed our tier ranking. I'm sure this is going to be a longish video, and I had fun doing this. Tell me in the comments if you would wish to see some other kind of tier ranking videos, because these are really fun to do. Although it takes a little more time in editing and stuff like that. But nonetheless, it was really fun to do. Thank you all for sticking up for so long with me, and meet you all next time.